Hey, welcome to the Teresa Lusk Show. I'm Teresa Lusk, and I'm on with John Fabbricatore. John, welcome to the Teresa Lusk Show.
Thanks for having me back. I appreciate you giving me a call and having me back on the show.
Yeah, today you're in for a treat because we are going to talk about something that's really hot right now with the media everywhere. And that is the immigration plan that President Trump is going to implement. So I'm going to have some questions for John. And John has kind of a diverse but very full background, actually. And I'm going to let him tell you about that in just a second. But first, I just want you to remember to join us live today, tomorrow, and Thursday. We're going to host some wonderful guests, and we're going to be talking about some very important things for America because we're really excited about the change in leadership in the United States of America. Aren't you excited about that, John?
I'm very excited. It's good for the United States what's about to go down.
That's right. So we're on with John Fabbricatore, and I want to show you a little clip in just a second. But before I do, John, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself? I know that you're a retired ICE agent, field director, and a recent congressional candidate. So just let us have it real quick. Let's hear about your background.
Yeah, just the down and dirty background. United States Air Force veteran, joined the Air Force right out of high school, became a federal agent in 1996 with the Federal Protective Service. Went from FPS to INS in about 99, and then which became Immigration Customs Enforcement after 9/11. Rose up through the ranks in Immigration Customs Enforcement, went all the way from an academy instructor all the way to the senior executive field office director for the states of Colorado and Wyoming. I was a deputy chief of staff on the border in 2018 under the Trump administration. And, I ran for Congress here, lost my first race running for Congress, but yeah, I've got a lot of experience with immigration, testified before Congress, testified before the state house here in Colorado a few times. And, just out here doing my thing with being a subject matter expert on national security and border security.
There you go. And I want to show our audience a news clip because there's one thing you did not mention. So let me go, and I didn't think you would, John. So I'm going to go ahead and put this news clip on. Let's see. Here we go. I want to show you something about John real quick.
A candidate for Congress and former ICE field office director who did a really good job for me, John Fabbricatore. John Fabbricatore. That's a hell of a name. But it worked. It worked because he did a great job. A candidate.
Wow. Hello. You have the endorsement of President Donald Trump. What about that? How about that, John? Tell us about that a little bit.
Well, I mean, President Trump's a great guy. And right before that, I had gone backstage and, shook his hand. I'd worked for the administration before, but had not previously met him. And as a kid, I grew up in Queens, New York. And as a kid growing up in Queens, I mean, Donald Trump was in the paper all the time. I mean, just an icon of New York. So when I went in the back and we started talking about New York, I told him I went to Catholic school in Queens and all this stuff. And when I said my name right backstage, he says, Fabbricatore, like, because he's from New York, so he gets it.
Okay.
He knew how to pronounce the last name right away. So it was. I did not know he was going to mention me when he went out on stage. So it was it was great for me to be standing there in the audience, and then he starts talking about me. So thankful for him for doing that.
Well, that's wonderful. He did make your name sound amazing. And I said, this is typical Trump mode, when he says something in the manner that he did. And
Yeah.
I thought it was worth looking into. And so I'm here just wanting to ask you some questions. I'm looking to see, not being rude on my phone. I know we have some friends that are watching live. So I want to make sure that if I see a question or something that we're able to answer those.
Sure.
So if you have a question, guys, please feel free to post it on here. John is an expert. And so I want to talk to you first about mass deportations, because there are a lot of scary stories going on out there. And I want to tell you, what can Americans expect regarding the mass deportation promises from President Donald Trump? I've been listening to the border czar talk about the process, but I want to know, what do you think is going to happen? What do you expect? What can you tell us?
Well, it matters for us what we think about mass deportations. Like a lot of people think all of a sudden the president's going to come in and he's going to mass deport 20 million people in a month. And that's obviously not going to happen. The highest deportations that we've ever had, removals from the interior of the United States, were under President Obama, and we had over 400,000 removals a year under President Obama. And I know President Trump would like to be over that number by a great amount. And so if we could expect 600,000 a year, I think that would be a doable number. And just to put something out, right away, I don't speak for the Trump administration. I worked as a field ops director, worked down at the border. I'm a subject matter expert on it. But what the Trump administration has actually in mind, I do not speak for. But the numbers that I'm throwing out there are what I believe are doable with the resources that are in place currently, and what we could do safely and with humanitarian cause.
And which leads me to my next question. What will be the selection process? And you brought up the humanitarian cause, because I know that there are a lot of Americans that are very concerned about that right now, how we're going to treat people. But also, I think that there's a lack of information going on out there, that there are a lot of people who are here illegally, and we're really talking about criminals, because I think this is what happened. I don't think that President Trump was just sitting around going, I just want to get rid of illegals. I don't think that was it at all. I think it had a proper cause, which was the increase of crime, as you have seen with the gangs. So what do you believe is going to be the process?
Yeah, even under the first Trump administration, we had targeted enforcement. So, ICE was going after, gang members, terrorists, national security threats, people who had committed crimes in the interior of the United States while also being illegally present. So that is going to continue to be the focus of this administration. At least I believe that that's what they're going to focus on initially, because they want to make America safe. And the way to make America safe is to get rid of those criminals initially. There's up to 600,000 on the non-detained docket that ICE is aware of, and that includes criminals that have been convicted of crimes in the interior of the U.S., from everything from homicides to sex assaults to robberies. And then, you've got final orders. Those who have gone in front of an immigration judge, saw the immigration judge, were ordered deported by that judge, and failed to remove themselves. We have 1.7 million of those, of orders that we know that people went in front of the court process, saw the judge, and decided they were not going to follow that judge's orders after they illegally entered the U.S. So, the 1.7 million final orders and nearly 600,000 criminal convicted and charged criminals, and right there, you're looking at over 2 million just in those two categories before we get into any other categories.
Which is interesting, because there's so much push for a compassion, as if we're not being compassionate. But I think one of the things that a lot of people who they don't like the idea of the deportation, is that they forget that there are some serious law breaking going on, and it needs to be taken care of. So how will they take care of the humanitarian process? And by the way, you've seen the governors who are already planning to resist the mass deportation process.
Yeah. So look, humanitarian, when you're talking about humanitarian, and I think what most people think is that you're just going to have agents going out on the street and just, ripping people away from jobs that they may be working, or taking a abuela out of a home and, deporting her right from the house. That does not happen. First of all, many people are going to have the opportunity to see an immigration judge and argue their case in front of an immigration judge. So that's the humanitarian effort right there. I mean, if you came in illegally, you've been here over a certain amount of years, over 10 years, you can, fight for cancellation of removal in front of an immigration judge. There are things already in the law that allow you to, have your case heard in front of due legal process. So that will occur. But again, before we even get to those cases, we've got 1.7 million people who've already seen an immigration judge and said, I'm not listening to what an immigration judge says, and I'm not leaving. And they've already broken into the country. We know they're here illegally. They've already seen the judge. They should go. If you're not listening to our immigration laws, and you've come into this country illegally, and then you got in front of a judge You had your legal process, and you still say you're not leaving. You need to go. So for me, before we can even put you in a detention center to look for your removal, you should leave the United States. You had your chance. You saw a judge. The judge said no. You should go. Bottom line, and we never have to put you in detention.
There you go. And you mentioned something that I don't think we ever think about. That is humanitarian. That is taking care of the humanitarian portion of this, because otherwise they would just treat you like this, massive level criminal and then just incarcerate you, deport you, et cetera. But they do give you a fair chance. That's how our laws are set up. The Pew Research reported that under Biden, the number of illegal crossings were massive compared to Obama and Trump, even in the millions. Can America realistically expect to reverse some of these numbers? Can we really expect that to happen under the Trump administration?
Yeah, absolutely. No, number one, just enforcing the Immigration Nationality Act makes us safer, makes the process better. And that's what was not occurring under the Biden-Harris administration. So they were not enforcing the law. They had kind of subverted the law by allowing asylum seekers to enter the country and not go into detention. Normally and historically, what would occur is when you entered the country illegally and then claimed asylum, you would have been detained and you would have seen a credible fear officer, had a credible fear hearing. There would have been made a determination on that credible fear hearing. Then you would have gone to a judge while in custody, and the judge would have made a determination on your asylum claimant, or either ordered you deported or ordered you to be released into the interior of the United States so you could have a further asylum hearing. That was not allowed to happen. And what this administration, the Biden administration, allowed to happen was just a mass influx of millions of people allowed to enter into the interior of the United States. And what that caused is it caused almost a crashing of our immigration system. Because when you allowed that many people in and you didn't stop them from entering, you now increase the amount of cases that immigration judges in the interior of the United States now need to see throughout the years. So someone that came in and had claimed asylum does not have a court date for 5 to 8 years in some districts. So like if you've gone to Miami, you're probably not seeing a judge for 7 or 8 years. If you go to maybe a smaller state, maybe it's taken 5 years for you to see an immigration judge, when you should have seen an immigration judge within weeks of being in detention. So the Biden-Harris administration, in my opinion, allowed this to happen on purpose because they knew it would take years for these cases to get through the system. And they were hoping to actually win the presidency and be able to have amnesty. Because they lost, now President Trump is now going to have to deal with these millions of people that now have to see an immigration judge. So we're going to have an increase in the immigration court system of the numbers of courts that we have, the numbers of judges that we have. There's going to need to be more immigration attorneys. I mean, what we're going to have to do to improve this problem is massive, but it's not impossible.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. Although, based on all the additional attorneys and courts, et cetera, that just lets you know that's already taxpayer money right there.
Yeah.
These are the repercussions that I think people don't understand. It's not just about letting someone stay, et cetera. It's about all the processes that go with this. Many accuse President Trump, and I don't really want to sit here and pound on this, but many have accused President Trump of being racist because of his immigration policies. However, President Barack Obama also had some really healthy numbers when it came to deportation. What separated them? What made President Trump a racist, but President Obama efficient?
Politics and the media.
Okay.
So politics and the media did not say anything when President Obama was deporting 400,000 people a year, putting kids in cages and everything else. And then when you get a Republican president come in, the media spins it, politics spins it, the Democrats spin it. And, all of a sudden President Trump is a racist. Number one, immigration is not a race. So, you could be from Canada, you could be from Russia, you could be from China, you could be from New Zealand, Australia. It doesn't matter. If you are foreign born and have not entered this country legally, that makes you an illegal alien. It doesn't matter what your color is, doesn't matter what your race, your religion, your ethnic origin, nothing. other than you cross this border illegally. So there is no racial nexus where President Trump is like, I'm just looking to get rid of a certain color of people or anything. No, he wants to stop illegal immigration in its tracks. President Trump has said, and I really believe that he believes this, he loves legal immigration. His wife is an immigrant. I mean, his parents were immigrants. And I feel the same way. I'm all for legal immigration. The United States is a melting pot nation. We have increased and been industrious and had moved forward in our look, Elon Musk, for one of the smartest men and richest men in the world, an immigrant who came to the United States. So yes. We've proceeded to be a better nation because of immigrants. And I believe President Trump believes that, but we can't have a legal and good immigration system when we have so many illegals in the system, because we can't get to our legal immigrants who are trying to get through the court process the right way when it's floundering because of the millions of illegal immigrants.
That and again, the weight and pressure that it puts on the American financial system, welfare system, medical system,
absolutely,
education system. There are things that we're not even thinking about, and a lot of times we miss considering that humane also includes being worried about those things and concerned about those things. So they're here because they think they're going to get something better. But if we start busting the system in every corner, then I'm not sure what they can expect. Do you really think that President Trump will be renewing his vision or his focus on the border wall? And do you think that these physical barriers, do they really help in this matter?
Yeah, let me explain this to your viewers, because I think a lot of people get this wrong. The border wall is not a barrier that keeps people out exclusively. It just doesn't. Walls have been built all over the world, and invading armies have gone over the Maginot Line in Europe through France. I mean, the French didn't think the Germans could get over it. The Germans just parachuted over it. But what walls are meant to do, and what the wall does on the border, is it allows us to use the resources we have better, so that we can have Border Patrol agents patrolling sectors that they are safer in. So the wall is necessary, and it does work when we have the right resources like manpower, video, drones, dogs, you name it, to be able to patrol that border. That border wall helps in allowing Border Patrol agents to be able to funnel the traffic into the areas that they are patrolling, and to have a better tactical situation for them. If you look at a castle, if you had a castle and no knights, the enemy would be over the castle wall in hours because no one would be stopping them. But when you have a castle that is protected from the inside, that castle is a barrier for keeping out people who shouldn't be in. That's exactly what the wall does. It slows down traffic so that the Border Patrol agents can respond and stop things from coming into the U.S. that should not be coming into the U.S. So President Trump will definitely renew that effort. The Border Patrol wall is needed, and it's purposeful when it's used in the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I heard a lot of criticism during the election about how President Trump didn't even complete the border wall. Can you address that real quickly regarding that? Because it left curious minds going, what happened here? And then you look up the information and you can't find anything that's good and solid.
Yeah. So the truth on that is President Trump wanted to complete the border wall. The thing about President Trump, this is a guy who, when he sets goals, he wants to reach those goals. I think he gets very aggravated and he gets annoyed with himself when he doesn't reach goals that he sets for himself. And the wall was one of those goals that he wanted to achieve, and he couldn't because Democrats kept him from doing so. People in Congress would not pass bills spending money on the border for him to be able to put that wall up in a timely and efficient manner. They were saying it's too much. It's too much. A couple of billion, $10 billion is too much to put that wall up. Yet these same Democrats have sent $400 billion over to Ukraine. They've sent multiple billions of dollars to other countries. They spent $450 million in Jordan to help put a wall up in Jordan. So, when we're talking about, how we spend resources and how things are allocated, you have to remember that Congress holds the purse strings. And President Trump tried to do as much as he could, but was fought at every single inch of what he tried to do. He was sued over 700 times to stop him on implementing certain immigration things that he wanted to do.
Were there Republicans involved in that as well? Because I like to report
Yes,
fairly and accurately.
fairly, and I will. I'm all over Republicans who did not back up President
Good.
Trump the first time. So yes, there were Republicans, and I believe that there will still be Republicans this time who will put up barriers and roadblocks for President Trump. And I'm going to say this right now: if you're one of those Republicans and you're not playing ball, you're not on the team, I hope that you get fired next election. If you're going to put up roadblocks and cross over with the Democrats to ensure that President Trump cannot get his vision pressed forward, you should lose your seat. Bottom line.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. I agree. And I would hope too that because you understand that some of these they're filled with pork, right? Some of these
Yes.
requests for money. So sometimes if we're being very logical about it, it's not always that they don't want to get it done. It's that it's wrapped up with a bunch of other junk. And just like when the Democrats do it, I know
Yes.
the Republicans do it too. And listen, I'm a hardcore conservative, but I think it's time for accountability and honesty, and we can't be hypocritical. So if we see the left doing it, we don't need to jump on that. Which leads me to my next question, which was about the Congress, and are they going to play well? And why would they not play well, other than that they're playing footsies with the Democrats for favors and other bills and favors, etc. Expand on that a little bit.
Well, I believe that there are some people who sit in seats who are precarious seats and can be lost to Democrats, and that there are Republicans who care more about staying in Congress than they do about getting the job done. So if you just entered Congress just now and you ran behind Trump and you were saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to make sure that President Trump gets, and then you get into Congress and you get worried because you might lose your seat in 2 years because you helped President Trump, and you don't help President Trump just to keep your seat, I hope you lose your seat. So you should get on board. You should be about America first, American citizens first, residents, legal residents second, come in second, but American citizens who are tax-paying citizens should be on your agenda. You should be helping President Trump get his agenda passed. And if you're not doing that, then you need to lose. And you need to let somebody in there that's going to get the job done. You're not in that seat for life. You're in that seat to get President Trump's vision and goals achieved. And that's what you should be doing.
That's right. And if you're watching, you are tuned in with John Fabbricatore, and he is a Trump-endorsed candidate. He recently ran for a congressional seat, worked really hard, unfortunately didn't make it because it's heavily saturated with Democrats, which we're hoping that will change the next session, of course, the next election cycle. John, we need to get you a seat in there. You know what I mean? We need to get some more passionate Republicans in there. But I want to talk a little bit about international affairs. And before I do that, if those of you who are watching, if you have a question, please feel free to post it. I'm looking at my comments here, making sure that we get your questions answered. But I want to talk about illegal immigration, as it's no longer concentrated. I don't know if you remember this, but it used to be concentrated with people from Mexico, right? And when we talk about race, this is kind of a little bit off topic, but when we talk about racism, I tell people, you don't understand what racism is. Racism was different. You just go back to the 90s. As a Latina woman, I can tell you things have changed. There's been a drastic change. But the people who are coming in illegally are really not necessarily just concentrated in Mexico. We have a variety of countries that are being represented through this illegal immigration, like Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador, Venezuela, Nicaragua, Ecuador, Brazil, others. What do you think is going to be happening between the Trump administration and some of these countries? Do you know of what is the current state of the relationship because of what's going on?
Yeah. President Trump has good relationships with many of those leaders in those countries, and I don't think there will be an issue. I think the Biden-Harris administration was a magnet for illegal immigration. I mean, from the start of the Biden administration, they purposely stopped enforcing the law. They were counter to what the Immigration Nationality Act says, and they basically said they came on TV and said, "Come on in," So people came, and then you've got these blue sanctuary states, which are magnets to illegal immigration and will give tons of benefits to illegals. So why would you not come? If you thought you could get in and you thought you could get a job that pays more than pays in your own country, why would you not try to cross that border? So we had millions of people actually do it. President Trump will stop that on day one. Now, there are some countries that we don't have good relationships with, like Venezuela, and it's going to be very difficult removing people back to Venezuela, but there are options. Even when I worked for ICE, through the 90s and 2000s and retired in 2022, we had third country options with other countries. So if we couldn't remove somebody to their country of origin, we could actually shop around and look for a third country option for that person. So, there could be something in the works where we have a country like Colombia take people from Venezuela until relations with Venezuela opens up. And the reason why is many of those people came up through those countries first. So our asylum laws say that you should, try to get asylum in the first country that you can safely do so in. So they traveled through many countries and South America to get here to the United States. So, if it's really asylum that they're seeking and it's a place to be safe, and they came up through 6-7 countries to get here, there's an issue with that. So, we can actually look around for a solution to that.
Okay, well, that's new news to me. I didn't know about this shop around thing, and I suppose maybe some of my viewers knew it. I don't know, but let me ask you about that a little bit. What are the rules for that? I mean, is the U.S. negotiating for some special favors, or is it all based on the asylum laws? What's going on there?
So both. So yeah, it's based on the asylum law. So, I mean, if we find out that a person established themselves in another country before they came up here, and this is why a lot of illegal aliens drop all of their IDs at the border, because they may have had an ID from Colombia. They may have had an ID from Peru, Brazil. I've found tons of Brazilian ID documents at the border. I've been to the border 8 times since I've retired, because I like to keep my eyes on exactly what's going on. So I spend some time at the border looking around, interviewing people. Ran across 134 Africans the last time I was down in Lukeville. So not people from South America, they were from Mauritania, Sudan, and other countries in Africa. So, and I talked to a lot of them, and a lot of them had spent 6 months in Brazil before they came up. So they had gotten IDs in Brazil that they had dropped at the border. So they had established themselves in some of these other countries. So some of these other countries may have to take them. But also some of those countries, and when we ask, because we need permission to deport somebody. This is another thing that a lot of people don't realize. You just can't arrest somebody and then throw them over a border of a country. It does not work like that. Like there's a system in place where you have to contact that country. You have to get a travel document from that country for there to be a deportation allowed to happen. Now that process runs smoothly with most countries. It takes days to weeks for that to happen, for you to enforce a departure. That country is aware of the departure. They're waiting for their citizens to come back to the country. But some countries are going to ask the United States for favorable trade status, for some loans and some other things from the United States in order for them to take some of these people back. So yes, there could potentially be a situation where some of these countries say to President Trump, "Hey, we will do this, but can you possibly give us, $400 million to help with this dam, with this water and damming project that we have to build a dam?" And again, this is something that I don't like money to go outside of the United States. I'm very first, America first. Our tax dollars should be spent here. Yeah. But the safer and more economically driven we can make South America, the safer we actually are. Because if things are better in South America, then we don't have people trying to cross the border. So we make ourselves safer by investing, not giving our money, not giving money on stupid projects to see if a frog changes colors in certain temperatures, but actually, spending money on farming projects and other things down there that keep people in their countries.
There you go. I have family in Mexico, and I love them very much. And my mom's from Mexico. My dad's from Mexico. I was born and raised here in Dallas. Um, but I'm very curious as to what might be happening between President Trump and the newest president of Mexico, the woman, the first
Yes.
female president of Mexico. Forgive me if I can't remember her name. I wasn't actually planning on asking you this one. But what do you
Claudia, I can't
foresee?
remember her name. Yeah.
Oh, I don't like that I don't remember,
Yeah.
because she deserves for me to remember her name. First woman elected, although she is a little, she's quite liberal. I know, especially in her uh, the financial, the areas of finances,
Mhm.
money. But what do you foresee happening with her and President Trump? I was very curious as to what might happen, because I can see that actually becoming more tense. I don't know that I believe she would actually be as easy to play with as some of the prior presidents. I see her actually probably being a little more rigid on her willingness or
Uh,
unwillingness to
we
play.
it's interesting because and I apologize for not remembering her name off the top of my head. You caught
That's,
me by
yeah.
surprise, but from what I've read about her, I believe that she will actually work with President Trump, because I believe
Okay.
in her best interest is the interest of her country.
Right.
So, we do have good trade status with the country of Mexico, and I don't think that that's something she wants to affect
Mhm.
by fighting with President Trump. I think she will do what's right because it will benefit Mexico to have a good relationship with the United States, and to help end the cartels, and to help stop drugs coming over the border and everything else that President Trump wants to do. I think at the end of the day, she will realize Claudia Scheinbaum, that's the lady's name. So
Thank
when
you.
when
I
it
was
has
trying to find it and I
Thank you,
couldn't. Thank
Vicky.
you.
Appreciate it. I knew it was
Yes. Oh
Claudia. All
goodness.
right.
Thank you.
So Claudia Scheinbaum. So thank you, Vicky. Yeah. So I believe that she is a very, very intelligent woman, and
Yes.
she's going to look at the aspects of this and see that it will benefit Mexico in the long run to have a good relationship with President Trump.
I hope you're right, John, because I have a feeling she's just a little more, she's going to be a little harder to play with, to be honest with you. But
She
let's see
will
what
be. Yeah.
happens. Yeah. I mean, I don't see, I think the men, I don't know. I just, being a woman, it just helps a little bit to understand the nature. And of course, having to prove yourself as a woman, especially in a Latino culture, with the expectations of the Latino culture, et cetera. So very interesting. So if you were to advise President Trump on immigration strategies for this, for his new election, what would you say? What's not been done, John? I was thinking about this. What has not been done that we have not applied yet to
Yeah.
the immigration? Because I will say this to you, I honestly believe that the immigration system hasn't been fixed on purpose. Otherwise, it had already been done. I mean, we have some pretty brilliant Americans who deal with policy,
Yeah.
laws, etc. Yeah, talk
Well,
about that.
I mean, there, that's where I could kind of debate you a little bit, because I believe that our immigration policy is fixed. It's just not enforced. So
Okay.
in 1996, when we had bipartisan support to increase the Immigration Nationality Act through IRA under President Clinton, I believe those laws that were written in 1996, while antiquated now, and there needs to be some updating of those laws, the
Mhm.
generality of what those laws are good, and we can enforce immigration law perfectly with those laws. The problem was, even after President Clinton signed those laws, they didn't enforce them. And every president after, President Bush, President Obama, President Biden, did not enforce them. The only person that tried to enforce the law as written in the INA was President Trump. And what he got for doing it was sued 700 and something times, because he tried to enforce laws that people were like, well, we've never done that before. We're suing
Yeah.
you for it. There's no precedent for it. Well, yeah, the precedent is right here in this law that passed through Congress in 1996 that we've never really enforced. So we've seen a fall off of worksite enforcement. We've seen a fall off of, a lot of people don't know this, but we can actually fine people for being here illegally. So when you were talking earlier about us losing money and taxpayers having to pay for the immigration court, we can actually find people and make them pay for their own deportation flight. We can
Wow.
make them pay for certain things along the immigration process, especially for those who have been ordered removed and have failed to remove. They can be fined. So we can recoup some of that money. So a lot of these laws have not been enforced. So I would agree with you that some things need to be, of course, 1996 was almost 30 years ago, so things need to be refreshed and renewed because technology's gotten better. There's certain things that we could do in the law that we couldn't do back then. But basically the bottom foundation of the Immigration Nationality Act is so good that if we actually just enforced it, we'd be in a much better place.
Well, that's very interesting that we have all that, yet it's not being enforced. It just makes you go,
Yep.
Again, understanding some of the political world, not as an expert, of course, but just understanding some of it. There's a motive behind it. I'm
Yes.
sorry. It doesn't just get ignored
Yeah,
from
I
the
don't
left
disagree
or
with
the
you. Yeah.
right. Let's just be honest once again. There is a motive behind it. And so I hope that, more awareness of this, comes about, especially dealing with President Trump, as he does have a history of trying to correct things that are not
Yes.
working for America. So I look forward to seeing some things happening, and just seeing what happens there. I want to talk just briefly about, as we get to closing, what do Americans need to know about the ICE agents? Because I feel like we
Oh,
don't talk enough about the mental health portions
Yeah.
of the ICE agents and the darkness that they may go through, their families, the worry. I can only imagine my son going out there. I have 2 sons, my daughter, my husband, whatever. Talk to us a little bit about the reality of these men and women, because I feel like they have been demonized
Yeah.
in many ways, and they don't deserve that.
Yeah, thank you for asking this question, and it's something that's very heavy on my heart because I served in the agency for over 20 something years, and was with the federal government for 30 years. But ICE and ERO and CBP have the highest rate of suicides of any law enforcement agency in the United States. I had one of my agents commit suicide 2 years before I left the agency.
Sorry.
The day of New Year's Eve. So on New Year's Eve, he committed suicide on the side of the road, and I had to go
Wow.
tell his wife that he wasn't coming home for New Year's Eve. So
Wow.
it's a hard job, and it's made hard because of the media alienating and demonizing Customs and Border Patrol agents, ICE agents, and saying what we are doing is, the same as a concentration camp when we put people in a detention center. I had protesters at my home in 2019. My daughter was young at that time, and they came to my home and protested. They flyered my neighborhood with pictures of me saying that I ran a concentration camp and killed immigrants. Said that I was a member of the Nazi Party. I mean, all sorts of things, and that is what gets put out there when the men and women of immigration, border patrol, customs enforcement, ICE, they're just trying to do the job of the lawful job that was passed by Congress, and do that job effectively with humanitarianism and professionalism, and do it right, keep people safe, and keep the American people safe as well. They're trying to keep America safe, but they're also trying to keep every single person that's in their custody safe. And at the end of the day, they want to go home, and they want the people that are in their custody to go home safely. That's what the men and women want, and for too long they've been demonized, and many have left the agency. And I hope now that under President Trump, that people come back to work for the agency,
Yes.
to work for the Border Patrol, for ICE, that they see a renewed vision of what those
Yeah.
agencies can be and what they can do to protect the United States and enforce our laws.
That's right. Thank you for sharing that portion, and I'm sorry to hear about your agent. Actually, I heard a report this morning that there are agents coming back and saying, "I want to renew my
Yes.
status." Is that not amazing?
Yes.
This says something. It says we finally feel like we're going to be backed up, protected, and I'm talking from an outsider's view. Imagine what you see with this. But yes, that's hopeful. It's good news. And is there even such a thing that we could do to support ICE? Like, is there anything? Are there ways to help the men and women that are out there serving us?
You're doing it right now, and I really appreciate it. Just you talking about it. So, unfortunately, there are very few stations, media stations. Fox News being one of them. And I'm not just trying to pat Fox News on the back, but I mean they do, but they do talk well about agents. I mean they actually go to the Border Patrol and they do that. But just like what you're doing right now, Teresa. I mean, just putting it out there where your audience is hearing, hey, these men and women are doing a good job. And if you know an agent or somebody, just tell them that you appreciate them. Send, we used to get, things during Christmas sent to the office, just cards from the public saying thank you for what you do. And you wouldn't realize how much that meant to the men and women. I mean, we would open up the card and post it on the office board for them to see, and just little things like that, where they know that the public appreciates them, because sometimes they feel like they don't, because what they hear from 90% of the media is negative. And so when they actually hear from the public and they see it, it means a lot to them.
Well, here's what I want to do, John, that you brought this up then. I would like to, after our interview, if you would please send me some information via email on how we can write to these men and women,
Sure.
send these, if you have an address, location, and I will post it on my page and my social media. I know that I have viewers who will watch, and I promise you there are people who will even do something about this. Matter of fact, I have, I'm a pastor, so I have church people that I know will also be very happy to send some support, whatever that may be. So if we could, get that information exchanged as well. I just want to know this last question as we wrap up. What involvement do you hope to have in in President Trump's administration?
I've worked for Tom Homan before. He was a great boss, and he's a cop's cop, great man. I've put the word out there that I'd be willing to come back to work for the agency. The people in the Trump universe know this. So we'll see if there's a place for John Fabbricatore to come back. There's lots of people who want to come back, so maybe there isn't a little bit of room for me. But if there's not, John Fabbricatore is gonna do other things. So, I've run for Congress here now in the state of Colorado. I believe. And just because you fail one time, that doesn't mean you're a failure. It's just a learning process.
Yeah.
So I think I learned a lot in this congressional race, and I believe that there's a future for me still in politics. I wrote a book recently, so I'll write more. There's a lot of different things that are out there for me. I would love to come back and work. One last hurrah, since I left during the Biden administration. I would love to leave ICE happy, not upset like I left the last time. So we will see what my future holds.
Wow, wonderful. What's the name of your book?
It's called De-Iced. So
De-Iced. Yeah, let's see it. I'm so sorry. I usually would.
Right here.
Okay. All right. Where should we get a copy of that?
It's on Amazon. It's on Amazon. It's easy to get on Amazon. And if you have Kindle, it's real cheap on Kindle. It's like $4.
Okay.
I made it really inexpensive because I just want people to be able to read kind of the history of what happened with ICE and how things went on. So
that's wonderful. Well, there you go, guys. Get you some reading material on Amazon. De-Iced by John Fabbricatore. He is a Trump-endorsed former candidate for Congress. John, it's been such a pleasure to have you back on. I had you on when I first started this show, and you were one of my first guests. And so I've just had such a great time talking with you. This has been a rich conversation. If anybody has questions, go ahead and post them now. Otherwise, just feel free to thank John for his time here to come on live with us. I'm excited for your future, John. I believe, as you said, that you have plenty to offer. You've got quite a bit of experience to bring. So it would not be wise for somebody not to snatch you up and say, we need John on this team. I love watching Tom. I'm actually interviewing somebody else regarding immigration tomorrow. And I could watch him nonstop. He is a man's man. That man is like straight. He's a straight shooter.
He is a good guy. Yeah. He's just funny to be around because he will tell you exactly what he's thinking. And nothing, there's no wall there. So, Tom will tell you how it is 100%
Yeah.
of the
Is he
time.
from New York? Is that what it
Yeah,
is?
he
He's
is.
from New.
He is.
There
He is
you
as
go.
well. So yeah.
There you go. There you go. Well, Vicky Dubay says, great interview. Very informative. Thank you both,
Thank you,
Teresa and
Vicky.
John. And thank you for everybody who's watching and will watch. I know there's some people on YouTube. I can see you. I can't see exactly who it is, but I know you're there. So thank you for watching. John, it's been such a pleasure. God bless you. I pray
Thank
that
you.
you will have some wonderful doors opened up for you. And please don't forget to send us that information because we want to encourage some ICE agents. Listen, the day of the election, I promise you, when we knew that President Trump was coming back, I promise you, like people were saying, even the air smelled more affordable,
Nice.
right? So we were all happy, but they could still use some more encouragement, I know. So thank you so much.
Yep.
You're welcome. My friends, there you have it. Don't forget to share this wonderful interview. We've had such a great time with John, and I can't wait to have you back one day and we'll talk about what's going on in the near future. John, thank you so much, and God
You
bless.
have a great day. God bless.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye. All right.